Hello, wrestling fans. Before I start this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, I just want to mention earlier today, WWE Hall of Famer and pro wrestling legend, the Iron Sheik, unfortunately passed away at the age of 81. Very sad day for all us pro wrestling fans today. And this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic tonight is dedicated to WWE Hall of Famer, the Iron Sheik. Episode 420 of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. I will be talking about tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite. What was Tony Khan's announcement regarding the main event of AEW Saturday Collision, debuting June 17th on TNT, and all the matches that took place on tonight's episode, right here, right now, 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Welcome, wrestling fanatics. Welcome to 360 Wrestling Fanatic tonight. As I mentioned in the preview, we'll be talking about tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite. But once again, as I said at the top, this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic tonight is dedicated to the memory of WWE legend, Hall of Famer, the Iron Sheik. And I've decided, instead of this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic right now, tomorrow morning on Good Morning Wrestling Fans, I'll talk more about the Iron Sheik, his career, and his legacy in the pro wrestling business. So I'll talk more about the Iron Sheik tomorrow morning on GMWF. But for right now, I'm going to talk about tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite. And Dynamite was live tonight from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Our commentators tonight, Tony Schiavone, Excalibur, and Taz. And tonight's Dynamite, we get started with the AEW International Championship on the line once again, which I have noticed that's been happening quite a bit lately. When the international title has been on the line on an episode of Dynamite, it usually kicks things off as of late. And I think it is a good way to start off the show. As I have been talking about lately, these international title matches that Orange Cassidy has been having with everyone they put in front of him as of late has been they've been very good matches, and it's a good way to get the show started off in an exciting way with a really good match. And tonight, this week's episode of Dynamite was no different. Orange Cassidy defending the AEW International Championship against Swerve Strickland. We see highlights from Double or Nothing, the Blackjack Battle Royal, when it was down to OC and Swerve, and Orange Cassidy eliminated him to win the match and retain the International Championship. This one, and we also see highlights of last week's Dynamite, where Sting and Darby Allin came out to make the save, having Orange Cassidy's back. This one, really good match, and both Swerve and OC really worked a good match here, but in the end, it is Orange Cassidy getting another quick roll-up to defeat Swerve Strickland to retain the AEW International Championship. And I have to admit, I am glad to see Orange Cassidy retain the title, but part of me was thinking, like I talked about on this morning's episode of GMWF, is that part of me really did think that AEW was going to put the international title on Swerve tonight, but that was not the case. And then after the match, the Mogul Embassy gets in the ring to attack Orange Cassidy, and then once again it is Sting and Darby Allin making the save for Freshly Squeezed. And next week on Dynamite, we are going to see a trios match, as Excalibur did on his Speedy preview, and Sting and Darby Allin will be joining forces with Orange Cassidy to take on the Mogul Embassy. And next up, we get a recap, I guess you can say, of Bryan Danielson challenging Kazuchika Okada to a match at Forbidden Door, and then we see Okada accept, which made this dream match official. So the 29th of this month, AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door, we will see the American Dragon Bryan Danielson take on the Rainmaker Kazuchika Okada. And that, I think it's safe to say, that match will be worth the price of the pay-per-view alone right there. And speaking of Bryan Danielson, he is on commentary for our next match, which is the Blackpool Combat Club, Jon Moxley, Wheeler Yuta, and the Ring of Honor World Champion Claudio Castagnoli taking on Best Friends Trent Beretta and Chuck Taylor and Rocky Romero. This one got started off right away. Trent Beretta, I believe it was, threw a chair at Wheeler Yuta, and then they brawled on the floor. But in the end, it is the BCC getting the win, defeating Best Friends and Rocky Romero in this trios match. And now at this time, we get the announcement for the main event of the premiere episode of AEW Saturday Collision that will take place June 17th at 8 p.m. Eastern on TNT. And the first AEW Saturday Collision is a trios match featuring Bullet Club Gold, Switchblade Jay White, and Juice Robinson teaming with the Ring of Honor World Television Champion Samoa Joe to take on the team of AEW World Tag Team Champions FTR, Dax Harwood, and Cash Wheeler, and their partner in this trios match, the returning CM Punk. Don't get me wrong, really good match. Main event worthy, definitely for a TV main event. It's just that, and I'm not saying I have a problem with this being the main event. It's just that I'm surprised. I didn't expect for Punk to have a match just yet on his first night back. I didn't think he would have a match until at least the second or third week he's been back. I thought that his first night back on this first episode of Saturday Collision, he might come out, cut a promo, and maybe kind of mention the reason why he wasn't there. I don't know if he actually would or not, but still, I would think that maybe he would cut some kind of promo, but not actually be in a match just yet. Like, maybe if he showed up on the 17th on that first episode of Saturday Collision, and then maybe have his first match back at Forbidden Door on the 29th. But that trios match is official. CM Punk will be teaming with FTR, and I'm sure it'll be a really good match, good main event. Hopefully, it'll draw some attention and get a good number for the first episode. Live from Chicago at the United Center. And now on to more action here on Dynamite. Konosuke Takeshita, along with Don Callis, is in action. He defeats Damian Ace. And this was kind of different what they did. Instead of the normal entrance video, they were showing on the screen that footage from Don Callis turning on Kenny Omega, and then Konosuke Takeshita joining forces with Don. And not only was that on the screen for the entrance, but it was replaying on the screen during the whole match as well. And after the match, Don Callis cuts a promo once again on the Elite. And next up, for the AEW TBS Championship, champion Chris Statlander taking on Anna J.A.S. with Daddy Magic Matt Menard out in her corner. And I thought, in my opinion anyway, they had a pretty good match. Menard did get involved a little bit, but it is Chris Statlander defeating Anna J.A.S. to retain the AEW TBS Championship here on Dynamite. Once again, a pretty good match, I thought, between these two. And we also got a promo from the AEW World Champion MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. And he was interrupted by Adam Cole, baby. And MJF cuts a great promo on Adam Cole. Talks about watching him in the Indies, CZW, Ring of Honor. He pretty much made fun of Ring of Honor, which, even though AEW owns it, or Tony Khan, and he said talks about how Adam Cole was pretty much the only one he liked, and talked about him going to Florida, of course, his time in NXT, and once again, just a very good promo from MJF, and I thought Adam Cole had a good response. And Cole actually gets MJF into agreeing to have a match with him, and that will take place next week on Dynamite for a title eliminator match, where if Adam Cole defeats MJF, he will get a shot at the AEW World Championship. That match is next week at Dynamite, and for this one I could see Adam Cole getting the win and then getting the world title match against MJF. That's just me though, who knows, I could be wrong. Also, I apologize, I made a little mistake. Unfortunately, there was a match that I forgot to put here in my notes. Unfortunately, I do that quite a bit. I do need to, as I always say, get better at my note-taking. And the return of Jungle Hook and the Jungle Boy Jack Perry and Hook take on the team of Los Faction Incanales, Preston Vance, and Jericho, with Jose the assistant, in this Tornado tag team match. And this one I thought was very good, actually, and surprisingly actually better than I thought it was going to be. And this one, they brawled on the floor through the crowd, and Preston Vance even getting busted open was a bloody mess in this match. And in the end though, Jose the assistant tries to get involved. Hook chokes him out, and Jungle Boy taps out Jericho. Jungle Hook gets the win. It remains to be seen if Jungle Hook, Jungle Boy Jack Perry, and the cold-hearted handsome devil Hook are going to be a regular tag team, or if this was just a one-night thing. We'll just have to wait and see what happens next between these two. And I apologize for going a little bit out of order there. And now it is time for our main event of Dynamite this week. Switchblade Jay White, who comes out by himself, flying solo tonight with no Juice Robinson in his corner, takes on Absolute Ricky Starks. Really good main event this week, I thought, between these two young, great pro wrestlers. And even though Juice Robinson is not at ringside with Jay White, White does get some help from the Guns, who show up and get involved in this one, attacking Ricky Starks. Jay White gets the win, defeating Starks. And then after the match, Jay White's Bullet Club Gold partner, Juice Robinson, comes to the ring and they celebrate. And that was tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite. I thought, in my opinion, once again, very good episode. Had some good matches tonight. The main event between Jay White, Ricky Starks, Chris Statlander, and Anna J.A.S. The BCC versus Best Friends and Rocky Romero was actually pretty good. And Jungle Hook taking on LFI was a surprisingly very good match. And then we had the announcement of the AEW Saturday Collision premiere episode main event. Once again, CM Punk returning on that episode and having his first match back with the AEW World Tag Team Champions FTR taking on Bullet Club Gold and Samoa Joe. And that is all for this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, or if you want to leave your thoughts on tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite, you can leave them right in the comment section or email at 360wrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. And I just thought of something right now, calling it In the Ring right here on 360 Wrestling Fanatic. If there are any really good questions or comments in the comment sections, and if I see them, I'll read them on the next episode, or try to. So any good comments or questions or anything, I'll read them on the next episode. And like I said, you can give your thoughts on tonight's Dynamite, or you can share some of your favorite memories of the Iron Sheik. Also, if you would like to advertise with 360 Wrestling Podcast, right here, 360 Wrestling Fanatic, Good Morning Wrestling Fans, let me know. Email 360wrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. If you have a business or anything, I hope we can work together and have some kind of advertising here on the podcast. Once again, the email 360wrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. And I hope to have more new episodes of 360 Wrestling Fanatic coming at you real soon. But until tomorrow morning, for Good Morning Wrestling Fans, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.